Okay, we are up to step 8. We're purchasing our defensives. This will be a nice short video. It's pretty easy to understand. It is a little different than other games. What we came up with is a layered defensive strategy. It's kind of rock, paper, and scissors. So if you play a game like Dungeons and Dragons, armor class becomes way, way too important. They start getting inflated, and before you know it, 2 people in the group have like a 45 plus armor class, and then 2 people have like a 20. And how do you design encounters that really work that way? So what we did is we created 3 different defenses, your innate defenses, so that there's always a way to exploit somebody. If they have a really high brace and they're really strong against melee, then maybe they have a low dodge so they can be hit with ranged weapons. Or if both of those are very strong, maybe they have a low skepticism and are therefore weak to magic. So let's go over those innate defenses. Each of these begin play at 1, and you get 3 points to distribute amongst them, so not a bad play is to put all of them at 2 to start with, but you definitely can put this kind of how you want. No defense can be higher than its limiting attribute, and we'll go over those. We start with Brace, which its limiting attribute is Fortitude. It cannot be higher than Fortitude. If you've got a 3 Fortitude, your Brace is never going to be higher than 3. And Brace represents your ability to shrug off attacks. This is for basically somebody hitting you and you just laugh it off. And it's most often used for a melee defense. So if somebody's hitting you with a melee weapon, this is the defense that they're aiming against. And if you've got a 3 Brace and they roll 2 successes, they miss you. They don't get through. You shrug it off entirely. Dodge, the limiting attribute is agility, so it can't be higher than your agility. This is primarily used for ranged attacks. So if somebody's hitting you with, rifles at range, then this is what you're going to use to dodge that. And your dodge, again, cannot be higher than your agility, so it's recommended that you look at the limiting attributes when designing your character, because if one of these is too low, that could be a big, big problem. If you take clumsy and the maximum agility you can have is a 1, your dodge is never going to be higher than 1, so that's something to remember. And then finally, you have skepticism. The limiting attribute is your will, and skepticism is against magic. So anytime someone's trying to affect you with a spell, it is going against your skepticism. A couple of paths give the ability to target something like dodge instead, but almost everything requires people with magical attacks to hit skepticism, and so it's a very, very important defense. Active defenses are assuming somebody got past that. So let's say you've got a 3 skepticism and they rolled 3 successes. Now they're good. Their spell is going to deal damage because all they have to do is meet your defense. They do not have to exceed it. So armor and resistances are the 2 things that you need to know about. If it is a physical attack, somebody is shooting you in the face with a rifle, then you get armor. And some races have armor. You can buy armor during character creation. Almost everybody starts with a set. And you're getting to stack that armor. So if you've got a worm, and that worm is wearing a set of environmental armor, they're getting their armor plus the armor from the armor that they're wearing stacked together. So, 4 or 5 points of armor. And that's going to directly stop damage. So if somebody does 5 damage to them and they have 5 points of armor, they take 0. If they have 3 points of armor, they would take 2. Resistance is exactly the same thing, but for magic. So resistance will block magic, but it's tuned towards the aspect. So some things will give people resistance to all aspects, which is great. Everybody wants it. Magic resistance rocks. And if you see it somewhere, grab it. It's definitely very, very powerful. But there's also specific aspects. And so, for example, when you take a fire catalyzation, it also grants you 3 fire resistance. So your resistance will only function against fire in that case, but it will block the first 3 points of fire that you would take. Anything that gets through, so let's say you take 5 points of fire and you block 3 of it with your resistance, the last 2 is going to come from your hit points. Your hit points are based primarily off of your fortitude, plus you get your archetype bonus. And when that hits 0, if you take additional damage greater than your fortitude, you just die. You're dead. So you want to be really careful at that stage. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the extent of our defenses. It's a really straightforward system. You have armor, and resistances are your active defenses alongside your hit points. And then your passive defenses is your skepticism, your dodge, and your brace. And you have 3 points to spend on those. You got to be conscious of what the limiting attributes are. Defenses are really, really important, so definitely do not pay short shrift to this area. Anyway, let's jump into the last part, purchasing equipment. And then, guys, we're done. That is the last step in character creation. You've almost made it.